I'm Nick Terzo, and you are listening to The Radical. This week's guest's debut album, Walk Through Fire, earned her 4 Grammy nominations, including a Best New Artist nomination. Her latest album, Stand For Myself, produced by Black Keys' Dan Auerbach, declares that real change will come when we challenge our thinking and acknowledge our true complexity. Powerhouse singer Yola joins me to discuss her complex and authentic songwriting, challenging all biases, collaborating with Brandi Carlile, Joy Olato-Kin, Natalie Hemby, and her upcoming role as sister Rosetta Tharpe in Baz Luhrmann's new musical drama, Elvis. Coming up, my conversation with Yola. Hi, Yola.
Hey, nice to talk to you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, man, it's my privilege to have you. Your record, Stand For Myself, is outstanding. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. I'm hella proud of it, I've got to say.
Well, you have every right to be. And I kind of feel like watching your career, I've been kind of like this little Dutch hound chasing after having you on my show. And you're like Formula One driver Lewis Hamilton with your career. It's just, I can't catch up. You're going too fast.
That's a massive compliment because I am Team LH all the way.
Oh, you are? That's good. I
really am. I'm Team LH all the way home. Always have been, always will be. Yeah,
he's astounding.
He is astounding. He's a true king, and he does kingly things all the time.
Well, you're the queen. You're the queen of music then. You're the Lewis Hamilton, but queen of music.
Hey, that's what I'm going for.
So talk to me a little bit about this record. It's an important time out there in the world, maybe while you were writing this, I suppose. So talk to me a little about some of the themes and some of kind of the important issues societally that you're addressing with this record.
Well, yeah, you're right that some of this was written in 2020, and I feel like I've talked about a lot of the stuff that I've written kind of prior to meeting Dan or prior to Walk Through Fire, but not a lot about the ones that were just like sparked in 2020. And like, you know, we spent a lot of time talking because we couldn't really do anything else, being locked up in our houses. So you spend a lot of time, you know, calling people, talking, occasionally getting out into someone's backyard for a hang and talking about what's happening. And, you know, when you have time to look at things in your life, they come off as like you feel everything more. And things that you may have let pass you by hit home. And I think that's kind of what happened in summer of 2020. And I think people just, they felt things. They were able to, their busyness was able to kind of cauterize their sense of empathy for humanity. And so I felt that on talking about that to like Joy Olato-Kin, it made us reflect back on times that we'd maybe minimized ourselves a lot, and you know, maybe we'd not allowed ourselves to feel whole because nothing in society told us that we had the right to feel whole. And that can be something that just stunts your ability to be creative and to grow. And that's kind of the starting point of this record, and then the context through which we attack all of these issues. So like with Be My Friend, I'm talking about allyship, and a lot of people were like, you know, I don't have cognitive bias. And, you know, we were talking to a lot of people that really honestly thought that they'd managed to circumnavigate something that all human beings suffer from, which is cognitive bias. We all have it. And so like that song is, it has a line that says, "No medal will adorn you, no fanfare will salute your fame. And it was that was referencing how enthusiastic people were to be like, you see, I talked to a black person today. I'm a good person. Where's my medal? I did it. One time. That was me. Like, or I've known about this person for absolute years, but I just decided to pay attention to them today. Where's my medal? I want reward now. And it's like, cool, we don't care how late you came to the party, but don't expect a medal for it, for just treating humans like humans. It's really basic. and so the song is a kind of like, would you be an ally? But also, in that accepting of being an ally, would you not be fair weather about it? Number one. And number two, don't go expecting a freaking high five and freaking parade in your name. This isn't White Savior Central. Grow up. Like, and so that's kind of that song. It's like a do it, and just do it because you're a good person. If you really are a good person, you won't be expecting a reward and a high five and notoriety for officially not being racist or something. Like you get a medal or a plaque on a wall somewhere. It's freaking ridiculous. Anyway, so that was like the vibe that I was getting. A lot of people waiting to be high five. I'm like, it's not coming, buddy. And so like there was like some of these kind of ideas of like where you set your boundaries, and even Dancing Away in Tears is like about boundaries. It's about outgrowing someone and being like, oh, this was cute and everything, but I've authentically outgrown this situation, and I now think whatever it is that you're providing isn't enough, and that's fine. I don't hate you. I think you're absolutely fine. It's just that I've finally found some self-esteem, and I consequently have to leave. And like every time I'm going through these moments where I'm like, oh wow, I deserve better than that, or we deserve better than that in diamond-studded shoes, where I'm like, could we just not subscribe to the divide and conquer paradigm for 1 second, please, guys? Like, it's doing none of us any favors. Like, the only person getting richer here is Bezos. And so, like, can we just not, guys? Can you just not bite every single time they bait you? That'd be real great. And so, yeah, like that's kind of, there's a lot of this record is just asking some really fundamental questions that were felt that they were being posed throughout 2020, from the George Floyd situation right through to the election, all the kind of general thing that we deal with misinformation online and how little responsibility people take for that misinformation. Like, it all felt that it was starting to inspire these conversations. And in the middle of the record, I'm just unendingly sentimental, because that's also like a 50 percentile of my personality. And so I was like, it would be, yes, I have lots of things to kind of gripe about, but also like that personal gripe of like having to be a black woman and active and constantly strong and constantly some kind of monolith, and you don't get just 5 minutes to be tender and to be nurtured and to be, taken care of and all of that kind of business. Like, there's so many insidious messages that try and paint women, black women specifically, as not needing of help and not needing of nurturing and not, and somehow, in some other space separate from white womanhood. And so there's definitely, when it comes to the perception of gender and the ownership of like femininity, as it were. And so like, I really wanted to undo that, not just in like the imagery, but like in like some of the videos, certainly for Starlight, and in, Now You're Here, and If I Had to Do It All Again. They're all about, and Great Divide. It's all about this yearning for connection and to nurture and be nurtured in turn, and all these things, because it's a massive rebellion apparently for a black woman to just be a big old softie.
Well, that's what I kind of found interesting, is you encapsulate that vulnerability right in this record, mm-hmm. But at the same time there's the other side that you talked about earlier, which is like the empowerment and the proactivity. And this record sounds proactive, even in sound, versus kind of a passive musical piece of work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think the idea is, like, when it comes to being, and I wanted to put those two things in the same space, because I think when Black women are active, which is kind of all the time, you might have noticed, like, there's something, maybe we get given this sense of, you know, oh, you're such a badass, or like you are framed as this person who is strictly there to serve, do the thing of service, and, you know, solve America's problems, please, you know, or solve wherever's problems. We don't care where you're from. And so just, if you're a Black lady, please solve whichever problems exist, wherever they exist. And so that whole paradigm isn't one that's parroted in other women's stories of different backgrounds. And so I really wanted to put the idea of being active, of having boundaries, but also of being gentle and not being a monolith. Like, I don't have to just write one album from one side of my personality. Like, I am allowed to be multifaceted and show that. And so I show that sonically in the story of, like, how I grew up, and the music I grew up in and amongst, and as well as I do lyrically in, like, from this idea of empowerment, and empowerment not being this kind of like rockish monolithic thing, but actually being something that you have to learn, you have to like grow towards, and it comes from accepting vulnerability and asking for help, and like, and also not subscribing to the monolith that is preached to you, and being your whole self as well. Then that's why it was important to put things that seem seemingly unconnected together with regards to just like love and tenderness, and then politics and society. And like, these things aren't separated in life, and one often affects the other. And so with my work, for example, the way I viewed myself in the environment of the UK and the way that they see Black women really made me afraid to lead. And I didn't want to have like a solo career like on my own for such a long time, because I was just afraid that like people would just loathe me because of the way I looked. And that message was sent to me via the environment I grew up in, which was like, we could only really have one Black woman at a time. And we're not going to be very nice to them, FYI. And each one of them will have a story of how dreadful it is to be doing what they're doing, and that they're somehow surviving amid all of that. But, you know, hostility is like a standard situation. And, you know, like that's it took me a long time to get over that hump. And so this idea of kind of reaching for, you know, your dreams, or as it were, to grow, it's, you know, you've got to be able to find like that sense of, I can be vulnerable, I don't have to be this strong person. I can interact with the entirety of my humanity, and consequently the entirety of my art. And that's valid. And people want to hear that, and people want to see that. I feel like the strong Black woman paradigm is the front that you put on before you accept yourself. And because that's painted because it serves other people. It doesn't serve you at all. It's framed as serving you, but it doesn't. You know, it just, it creates like a Mork and Mindy egg around you of defense, you know, and that's like that's not really interacting with the world, you know. And so I wanted those two things to live together. So yes, strength and tenderness are a part of the same house.
Right. And do you feel, versus maybe like earlier in your career with some of the kind of supporting or backing vocal roles, stuff like that, versus, you know, becoming your own front person, star, songwriter. Did you feel like that broke through then when you finally identified with doing your solo work?
Well,
that you got away from that a little bit.
Well, I made a point of, the unfortunate thing about my presence, or certainly the most popular articles about me on the internet, seem to portray some misinformation, which is not anyone's fault apart from the one person that wrote it, who I don't even know which one it is that everyone's looking at. I have to ask at one day. But they always think that I've done backing vocal work. And I think this particular person must have just had some cognitive bias because I'm a dark-skinned woman and I wasn't like a solo artist. I must have been doing backing vocals and I haven't.
Right.
And so that's one of the things that happens. But they'll go, oh, you look like this. So you were an artist, but you were in the industry. So you were doing backing vocals, right? I'm like, no, I was actually a front woman for hire. But that's not the most popular one that gets kind of brought up on the internet. I would always front people's acts. They like EDM artists. A lot of them are just DJ producers. They don't sing. So they do songs with me or with other people. And they'd want a singer who can sing all of the songs. And frankly, I can sing most things. So I get the call and they go, can you sing leads and just sing all of these songs? That's what I was doing for Massive Attack when I was in that band, Bugs in the Attic. Granted, we did rotate. I do my songs, then like Natalie Williams would do her songs and we'd share the role. And then I would do a harmony for her or she'd do a harmony for me when I was doing my lead song. But by and large, I avoided backing vocal jobs because of how easy it is to get sucked into that world. And in the UK, you don't get seen as a artist in your own right the second you start accepting those roles. So it becomes something that you have to hold out on to be able to do what you do. And then the rest of the time I spent writing for people, mostly again doing what I like to call the unfeatured feature, where like I wouldn't put my name to something, but I'd ask for more money. and the idea is that I don't want your credibility or fame for being a raver. I'm not a raver. Like I can come up with ideas if you need them, but I'm not gonna like pitch my tent on this somewhat whimsical and ground where they'll be like, oh, I love this DJ for like 2 years. And then that person completely disappeared and someone else pops up in their place and they totally love them. I was like, I can't pitch my entire life's career on something that is so cyclical like this, because I would like to be an album writing artist, a long arcing artist, and that's going to be harder in this environment. And obviously aesthetically, I'm into different stuff. And so like I would always bring my soul sensibility to these jobs, but it was always like pumping up someone else's machine and people would do really great off me. And I was like, that's fine if I've got publishing, but when I don't, like if I'm just doing a vocal or something, it has to do really well for me to see any kind of like reward from it. And I realized after a while that I was just like working a job. It wasn't really, I was building a career, and like all the writing I was doing was happening and it was doing stuff, but it was taking such a long time to get recognized. But then I would get like a few decent cuts. And like my first thought when I got them was like, I can now afford to do my own thing. I should probably think about doing that. But it took a long time to get enough money to be able to do that. It also took a lot of mental preparation and having a decent support structure with like the environment that I was in to dare to do it. And so like, because again, like they were off, no one really was in the habit of believing in Black women doing music in the UK for some bizarre reason. Which doesn't make any sense. Like if I think about it as an African,
strange.
It's so strange. but it wasn't like, oh yeah, like you'd think like you'd be drowning in black women doing music because, you know, Africans. But like, but no, it was like a really weird programming that I had to get over. And I had to avoid doing backing vocal work for that to even be a starter. And so, yeah, it was a weird kind of thing that I had to dance, a weird kind of barrier I had to traverse.
Well, thank you for the clarity on that. And I mean, I wasn't even clear that, you know, London had this kind of blind spot. I just can't get my head around it, to be honest.
Well, I think London was a better environment than anywhere else in the UK for women of colour, and black women specifically, but across the board with women of colour. But I was in Bristol, and Bristol, as liberal as it is, like, would constantly fail its women of colour. That's just what it is. Like, I love growing up there. Great place to be, great place to go and get turned up, or, you know, hang out with your friends, eat. So many good places to eat and to drink, and it's a wonderful place, but artistically, it massively underserves black women. And I go to London, and London was better, but it's still in England, and England just doesn't. Even Meghan Markle had to come back to America going, wow, it's actually more chill here. And I'm like, I know, right? It's totally weird. It's not what you expect. It's just that we're maybe a little bit more quiet with our bias and our bigotry. we're a lot more kind of like tactical with it. They're not so obvious. Polite, yeah, maybe even, but like no less effective, may I add. Just politer with it. And so that's the thing that, like, I realized I was going to have to travel to get like a few different people's perspective on me doing what I'm doing creatively. That was like a big realization. I remember even meeting Estelle Darling way back, and she was moving to the States and saying, oh, you might need to leave at some point. And I was like, wow. Like, she goes, I'm going to go see what's popping. She went to see what's popping. She did made that tune with Kanye and the rest is history. But like, you know, I was like, it just stuck in my head, and I'd watch and I'd be like, wow, it doesn't matter what you do. It's like they can't hear you. And then you go into places that you do like small shows, and it was like the people were totally ready for it, but the machine didn't quite know what to do. And so that was a really weird thing about being in the UK and starting there. And if it wasn't for the Americana community in the UK, like I wouldn't have even had a start. Like, and so I owe a lot to them and to the genre. And its umbrella perception of having lots of genres underneath it that allowed me to kind of do what I like.
So as Stand For Myself, I'd be curious, how did all the collaborations on here? It's produced by Dan Auerbach. How did how did you put this all together?
Well, you'll notice the title track, Stand For Myself, is actually co-written by a producer, writer, pianist called Hannah Vassant. In, I want to say, a trip back home into the UK in 2018, I felt like I had a song stuck in my head that I needed to get out. I felt like it was going to be about this whole journey of minimizing yourself as a woman of color. And Hannah is a Berliner, South Asian heritage, first generation in the West, and maybe a little darker hued than your average Indian that you see in the media, if you will, not necessarily average Indian, full stop. And like, she had definitely gone through some like experiences of colorism. So it was something that we could talk about and often did. We went way back. We go way, way, way back. And so that's kind of how that song started. I was like singing some of my voice notes at her, trying to make sense of the kind of melodic and the chord structure. And we built this up and we talked about it, and that helped me process. And the words just came flowing. And yeah, we put down a demo, a bit more of a programmed demo, but was a large part of the perception of the song and what we then listened to kind of live track the song in the studio. And so, like, that was the collaboration with her was from our time in Bugs in the Attic, Afrobeat, new, like neo soul, what they call broken beat in those days. West London outfit, like we were like bandmates. And same thing with Diamond Studded Shoes. It wasn't that we were bandmates, but it was just a connection that of friendship and us talking in Aaron Lee Tasjan's living room and like talking about what happened in the US and the state of the US in 2017 and the UK with Brexit and all this kind of business. And like so much came around conversations and so I carried on that philosophy, talking to Joy Ladakun about, you know, that idea of like minimizing yourself and like the situations in which we've done that and how that really doesn't serve you, and just keep on trying to have conversations with people and then to start up these ideas. And then in those conversations, like I'm able to find something that's true to both of us. And it's about the connection that we have. That's a really big part of my process, is trying to connect with the person over something that feels salient, you know, something that I've been living through, like in the recent past, and to then connect with someone who's also had that experience and to write about our collective experience and the things that bind us are true, you know. And so even though it might be me writing a lot of the lyrics, it'll be a conversation that we've had that kind of gives rise to that. And like, it is a really wonderful way to write, because you have to explain yourself to that person. You have to have a sense of objectivity about yourself. And so, for example, with Break the Bow, I'm talking about the death of my mother, and I'm writing this with a complete stranger who doesn't understand the nature of me and my late mother's connection. And so she's not going to understand how to, like, I wanted a bridge, I wanted some patching, I wanted a little bits to finish off lyrically. I pretty much had most of it, but I needed like an expert hand to help me finish it off. And so I had to tell her about like how my mother had all the tenements of a clinical psychopath, but was undiagnosed. But for that reason was very capable, but also very somewhat unfeeling. And that being challenging. So the nature of my grief of her death was complicated. And like, this song is like an imagined idyll of her heaven, if you will, pre-Windrush, pre-bait and switch. And all of these like conversations were things that then bound you to that writer. And you'll see Natalie Hemby is on as a writer a lot. And that's because we were able to talk about so much. She was just so comfortable talking about so much. And so every time I felt like I needed to tackle something, I felt comfortable calling her. And so, yeah, like that was something that really...
Were these new relationships for you on this record? I mean, versus your debut record? Yes.
Well, by and large, versus my debut record, they're older relationships, technically, because I'd never met anyone that had written on my first record. I hadn't met any of them ever. and we weren't the same age or even the same generation. We weren't from the same continent. We didn't have the same like background, ethnicity wise or culturally, or the same gender. Or I beg to believe in some cases not even necessarily on the same political alignment. And so we were trying to find things that were that either everyone could identify with or no one could, like walk through fire. Not many people can identify with being on fire, but I was a human torch for a short amount of time in Christmas 2014. And so that song is about what the kind of realizations I was having whilst I was burning alive. And they looked at me like I was insane, and I told them the story. And that was kind of how I navigated that situation of like essentially meeting a bunch of legends, but none of which I'd ever met before, and none of which had any idea about the quirks of my life, and that I wasn't necessarily going to have time within the space of 3 hours to really break down. And so I needed older relationships to be able to get into this record. So Hannah Vasant, I met in, 2005, 2006. I want to say 2006. No, maybe 2005 even, late 2005. Anyway, I met her way back, Ernie Tasjan. I met him in like Sweden in like 2017 or something. And, you know, like there were like newer relationships. Natalie Hemby I'd probably only met, you know, in early 2019, just after my record came out, and she got the record and then proceeded to hound every bit of representation I had until she could get in contact with me. And I met her at Luck, and she was just like really enthusiastic about just being in touch, and you know, and so like all of these were like maybe older connections or longer before we started writing, as opposed to just meeting someone in the room on the day and then trying to get in as deep as you can into the sense of your connection as possible within 3 hours. And so, yeah, that's changed a lot with regards to what I could do in the room.
Right. Well, that's a hell of a creative cohort you've put together. I mean, it's pretty amazing. Those are some talented folks. So. Yes.
And to be able to talk to people way before, so you can go straight in, is a tip I recommend to any aspiring artist. Like, if you know someone, there are some conversations that you're not going to have to get to that point of being creative. And so making a true connection was like the foundation of this record. And I think on every level, from the artwork to the lyrics to sonically where it's going, there's more steeped connection as opposed to immediate connection, you know.
Well, I know you have to jump, so I just want to ask you one last thing here, and that's about, I understand you've taken a role in a new Baz Luhrmann musical drama. Is that true?
Yes, it is. I've been cast as Sister Rosetta Tharpe in the...
So amazing.
Yeah, it's kind of mind-blowing, and I was fortunate enough to actually shoot my scenes in the movie during lockdown via the power of an exhaustive screening and quarantining and all this business. We went over to Australia and we shot the movie, and the whole process was something that I'd never done before, and I'd never even done a solo before. And so I'd spent the rest of the year, the lockdown, practicing these solos for the movie. And then when I got there, I was like, oh, like, it's not just that I need to be able to do these solos that I've never done before. And they're like, she's shredding. Like, that's what she does. I've got to kind of sing counter the rhythm of like what I'm playing, which means that you've kind of got to split your brain. That's really hard to do. And then I had to be able to see the bits of tape on the floor where my marks are, so I can hit my mark, so I don't miss the frame of the shot. I'm like, cool. So I can't be looking at my fingers because I've got to have one eye out for those marks. I've also got to interact with the people in my scene. So Elvis or whoever who are in my scene, I've got to interact with them. I've also got to be able to see the director because Baz is going to be doing something. And so like, and then I've got to be emoting and actually being her and not looking like I'm thinking about what I'm doing. And so like, you've got to be acting to the camera. And so acting to the camera, acting to the other actors, and being aware of your marks on the director are all the main things that you've got to do. And the sideline is the other thing you've never done before, which is shredding whilst singing counter that feel. And so it was like a lot. And like, I did it, surprisingly. I didn't know if I was going to get through it, but I did it. And for 15 hours a day. And like, it was the most intense thing I've ever done in my life. It's the most kind of focused you ever have to be. And like, I feel like it really transformed like what I thought I could do. And so, yeah, it's been really exciting. We got to see some of the shots as well. We got to sit and look at the monitors whilst other people are shooting. So like, we watched all Gary Clark Jr.'s shots. He's playing Big Boy Craddock in the movie. And yeah, we got to watch like all of these scenes and just to see how they broke down. And it looks stunning already. And so I can't wait for like everyone else to see this.
Congratulations. Yeah, Baz Luhrmann's a gift, and I think he's so great with musicians and with artists on the music side of things. He's so patient and nurturing. So what a great experience. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. And he really is. I can definitely second that.
Well, thank you for your time. The new record's incredible. If there's anyone on here that's a Grammy voter, let's go again. Let's get this woman some Grammy nominations.
Yes. Oh, my goodness. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Yola. You are a delight, and your story is really inspiring.
Oh,
Appreciate it.
Thank you, love. Have a good rest of your day.
Stay safe.
I will do. All right, and you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you for listening. This show originates from the podcast capital, Austin, Texas. My producer is Sean O'Neill. Visit theradicalpod.com for updates and even some merchandise. Also, please subscribe at Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And I also ask that you please share episodes with your friends so we can continue to grow our community. See you all again next Friday.